Welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I am here with Donald and Rob, and the Yankees just keep on rolling out the series wins. And where it was almost looking like with the offense, it was just going to be another nerve-wracking weekend. We have the pitching to kind of balance it all out. And yesterday, Nestor was just insane. That dude, let me tell you, everybody keeps saying, yeah, we don't know what we're going to get from him. I think this is what he is. I think he's just he's not going to overpower you, but he's going to outpitch you. He thinks very well. And the one thing that always stands out when he's focused and he's in command of everything that he's got, he never leaves the rubber. He's ready to throw the next pitch within a split second. It's like he knows what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to navigate through the batters, and they have a good hitting team. That wasn't an easy team to navigate through, and he was able to shut it down. And Montgomery wasn't too bad either. In the third game of the series, it just again no run support for Monty, which is really getting on my nerves because he looks like the weak link. Always being down a run or two. Meanwhile, it's only a run or two. And it throws a lot of shade on Monty. But Nestor is he is unbelievable to watch. Really, and it just really improves the hope that this is going to be, they could sustain this type of success throughout the season. Do you guys get the same feeling the way this rotation's been kind of navigating through all these teams?
Well, Cortez got the best ERA in the American League.
Yeah.
Number one ERA in the American League. Nasty Nestor. He is the nastiest of Nestors. I mean, he almost had a no-hitter his previous outing. Yep. He was just as good today. Yesterday, he retired 15 in a row at one point. Mixing all his pitches, his knuckle curve was there, his cut fastball was there, and he just kept hitters off balance. And he made a very strong lineup look pretty average to weak. That's how good he is. This is not an accident anymore. He is now legitimately one of the very, very best pitchers in all of baseball. At the moment, he's the best pitcher in the American League. That is not hyperbole. The stats are right there to back it up. The story is amazing. And he just never gives up. And that mentality on the mound carries forward when he pitches every 5 days. And he looks legitimately better every start. Now he's adding length. He was only giving us he was only trusted to maybe go 5-6 innings before. Now he's legitimately going 8 innings regularly and minimum pitches.
His pitch count
yesterday. Yeah, pitch count was way down yesterday. He just flew through them. Beautiful outing from Nasty Nestor. He is he's the ace of the staff. He's the best pitcher in the American League, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Hats off to you, Nasty Nestor.
Rob?
Yeah.
How do you add to that, right?
It's insane because they kept talking about it yesterday, like his story. I keep saying it. It's like a broken record with him. He's weird because his stuff should not be overpowering people the way it is, but that tells you how important a good cutter can be. And I bet Larry Rothschild is seething right now because he could not get his guys to throw the cutter the way that Matt Blake has been able to. And everybody except for Montgomery has been throwing the cutter more this year on our starting staff because Monty already used it. And for Nestor, it's just working. It's working so beautifully. It's moving well. It's spinning. It's getting weak contact. He's getting swings and misses. And the fact that he had a little tick in velocity with it this year compared to last year is helping so much. It's not overpowering. It's not 95, 96, but it's like 91, 92. He touched 93 a couple of times yesterday, but it's working.
Yeah, and the deception of the movement of the ball.
Everything that he's doing it's working. And the big thing is the length, like Donald just mentioned, because he was giving us maybe 4 2/3 on a good day last year. And early on this year, he was like a 5-inning pitcher, which is fine from your number 5. But now you're saying Nestor can give you 6, 7 every start.
Yeah.
And he's going to limit the other team to 2 runs at most. Like, that's how good he's been. And it's insane. And he's just having fun out there. You know, he's not sitting in the corner just, you know, waiting for the next inning. He's laughing it up. He's high-fiving his teammates. And he's having a good time. He knows that this is, he said it himself, this is his life. You know, he's got nothing to fall back on. Baseball is his life. And he's enjoying every moment of it. And I know as fans, we're enjoying every pitch he throws because it's nasty. It's that mustache, man. I love it.
Nasty Nestor, 7 starts, 1.35 ERA, 49 strikeouts, 0.85 WHIP.
You don't. Those aren't numbers for a number 5. You know, it's just. That's what I can't wrap my head around, is the fact that there are people, and I think most Yankee fans saw this coming. You know, we weren't expecting to this level, but we knew that Nestor was something special. But now you're starting to see baseball overall start to acknowledge what he's been doing. And I think that makes it even, you know, that's just the icing on the cake. You know, for his story of a career, you know, what he's gone, you know, what the journey that he's taken so far. And, you know, Rob, you were talking about the cutter. And I think it's safe to say, not that it's hard to compare to this player of this magnitude, but I don't think we've seen a cutter this effective since Mariano. You know, where, you know, it's just the way it moves and nobody could hit it. You know, we don't know how where his story, how his story is going to end. But his mission right now is to win a World Series, and he wants to do it with this team. He is 100% locked in on, you know, what the Yankees are doing, and he is doing everything he can to make sure that he's part of the contributing factor, not the reason that they fall short. And that mentality is dangerous when you're in a competitive sport.
I just want to quote Andrew McCutcheon's tweet on May 9th about Nestor Cortez. He says, Nestor Cortez fastball plays up, meaning his 91 to 94 actually feels like 97. Mix that with him messing with a hitter's timing, throwing from different arm angles, and locating well. He's very, very difficult to hit. He showed that today, and that was in reference to his no-hitter start. Now we're adding, basically the entire year and second half of last year and yesterday as well, but that's what it is. So it's an interesting tweet because he's coming from a hitter's background. He's now faced him before. He says that it plays up. It means that just a mid fastball, the way he locates, the way he delivers it, plays much faster, and that's why he's throwing guys off timing. So it isn't an accident at this point, and it's all about ability and an arm angle and his thinking on the mound, and the way that he delivers the ball is not an accident anymore. It definitely is not. He's very, very smart. Great location too.
No, the other thing that we noticed that from the weekend series was that the bats are kind of cooled off a little bit. The first 2 games, the bats were unconscious, and I think they had like 25 runs in the first 2 games, and then the second 2 games, it was like last year's offense. Where which we haven't seen in a while, especially in back-to-back games where we've seen just the silent bats. Was it just their pitching kind of was on their game, or do you think that this could be an issue with the offense going into the next couple of series?
Well, Chicago's got a good staff. Kopech was one of the best pitchers in all of baseball going into yesterday. And if he didn't lose the strike zone in the second, we probably got shut out completely. So we got very fortunate that because he found it the very next inning. It's not for that second inning.
Yeah.
We don't score. So let's not forget that Kopech is still a really good pitcher. The third game, they might have just been tired. I don't know. You put up 25. We've seen the Yankees do it plenty of times before with good offenses. They put up a bunch of runs in a 2-game set, and the next game they just kind of don't do anything.
It's like, it's like that's why we always have that joke, save some runs for the next game. But
Yeah, if they would have saved some from the first game and put it into game 3, we would have swept the series. But yeah, even then they were able to mount that comeback and tie the game. And if not for Aroldis Chapman being Aroldis Chapman, who knows how that goes. But yeah, I'm not worried about it because I think it could take one series. We play Baltimore. First of all, the scheduling is so stupid. We play Baltimore, then Chicago, then Baltimore again. We played Baltimore like what 4 series before we
It
played
feels like
Tampa.
all year we've played Baltimore and Toronto.
It seems like that's the only teams we've really played.
Yeah,
Right. We're
this is
playing
Baltimore and
both.
Toronto
Yeah,
100
both
times.
Chicago series will be done before we play Tampa once this year. I don't know who made this schedule, but it's terrible. Anyway, if we have a good series offensively against Baltimore, then no one will remember the offense struggling against good Chicago pitching. I think it's nothing to worry about because we took 3 out of 4. Had we lost the last 2 games, he'd be like, all right, pick it up. But even yesterday, 5 runs on 2 hits. Baseball's weird. That doesn't happen. And Joey Gallo getting that big 9th inning home run. Hey, score how you can. And that second inning against Kopech was like, if you're not going to hit the zone, we're just not going to swing. They didn't swing the bat until Aaron Judge hit a foul ball with 2 outs in that inning. So they were just like, if you're not going to find the strike zone, I'm just going to sit there with the bat on my shoulders and let you walk me. That's what they did.
I don't actually have a problem with the offense at all. Even yesterday, I mean, listen, Kopech had a 0.90 ERA going into the game, 0.90 ERA. So he was pitching terrific going into this game. You lost the strike zone. We took advantage of it. If we weren't drawing walks, then I would have a concern. But this is the way that we are. This is usually how we score runs. It's going to be drawing walks, and it's going to be hitting the occasional home run that in a game, and that's just how we generate offense. That's going to, I believe that we've like prior to the weekend, 53% of our runs have come from by a home run. But the difference is with this offense is we're able to score in different ways now, which we weren't able to do over the last, I would say as far back as the last 4 years, we haven't really been able to score runs at all, other than just a home run and drawing walks. But we're shown a proclivity of being able to use small ball when needed, steal bases, take the extra base. We're so much smarter on the base paths now. So, and we're much better with 2-out situations than we have been in the past. That's why I love this team. It's a plucky team, man. They don't give up. So we did what we needed to do yesterday. Kopech's a very hard pitcher to generate good contact off of. He's a terrific pitcher. So what we did was we took advantage of his losing the strike zone. So we drew a bunch of walks, scored a bunch of runs that way. And then with Nestor on the mound, there wasn't a massive need to be going and trying to swing for the fences. We knew that we had Nasty Nestor for 8 innings. And then Joey Gallo ran into a fastball and job done. So yesterday wasn't a problem. And it wasn't a problem the night before. If Chapman, who really you should be discussing, didn't blow the ball game, then we wouldn't be discussing the offense at all. The offense has been terrific the whole time. Well, obviously, the only issue I have is obviously we need more from Aaron Hicks, but all he does is draw walks. We obviously need more coming from center field. Joey Gallo looks like he's finding himself a little bit, but he is what he is. He's not someone you can rely on. Donaldson is coming around a little bit. He's playing terrific defense and he's shown that he's able to square up on a couple of fastballs. And obviously Riz was in a little bit of a slump, but I'm not worried about him either. Kiner Falefa, same thing. And we're not getting anything from the catcher spot. So we know the positions of weakness offensively, but it's been made up with an attitude to never give up and an attitude to do the little things that's required to win ball games every day, including play excellent defense and run the base as well. So what Cashman did was actually kind of smart. He's like, right, okay, so we're losing a bunch of home runs from Gary Sanchez going, but we've gained defensively by him just leaving. Now we can make up the runs that we've lost, the deficit of the runs lost. We make that up with excellent defense from Josh Donaldson, Trevino, / Higashioka, and Kiner Falefa shortstop. You make up all the runs lost that way, and then you also go into extra coaching and running the bases properly, stealing that extra bag, taking that extra base when needed. You now have a really good third base coach as opposed to an incompetent third base coach, and suddenly you're actually scoring little runs that we weren't scoring in the last 3-4 years, and it makes up for any power lost in the past. You make it up with better fundamentals, and that's how you build a team. And this is something that Cashman's missed for like a decade. He seemed to have completely forgotten about that. But the travesty of last year, even though we won 90 games, it was a travesty of a year of just the worst baseball you could ever watch. And it finally hit home to him, and he's had a different approach. And that's what you're seeing from this team. It's just a pluckier approach, and you got a better manager now. He's obviously smarter, and he's learned from last year. That's a good thing. And he's got a different approach this year. So there's a lot of things to be positive about.
No, specifically going back to it, the catching. I think that we was kind of commenting, complimenting Matt Blake a lot, and and Harkey on how they've worked with this pitching staff. But I think that the fact that with Sanchez gone and the combo of Higgy and Trevino, these pitchers now have more confidence that they can throw what's working for them, and not have it bite them in the ass with misplayed defense behind the plate. So I think that although we're not seeing a lot from them offensively, what they are contributing to the team is I think more important than getting the big hit. Preventing the big hit and preventing the opposition from having a big inning. It starts with the pitcher and catcher, and then when you have Donaldson and Rizzo on the corners, Judge in the outfield, Stanton in the outfield, you already LeMahieu at second base. The defense alignment alone I think that's what's been missing more than the fundamental offense. When you have a sound defense, everything else starts to tie together. And talking about on the corners with Donaldson and Rizzo, I would like for them to really work with Falefa, because what we're seeing with him is he's not hitting the way that he wants to, and you're starting to see it affect the defense a little bit, where he may not look as locked in at shortstop. I think when you have two veterans like them, even LeMahieu for that matter, to work with him on how to separate the offense and defensive struggles. And because if Falefa can lock up shortstop like he was a few weeks ago, where it didn't matter what he was doing behind the plate, he was contributing with the glove. I think that's something that's also very important, especially in the shortstop position. That's a vital position. When you're dealing, because especially with a lot of our pitchers are ground ball pitchers, we need that infield defense to just be lights out. I think if the veterans work with Falefa, I think it'll also help him come out of this little batting. I think it'll improve his bat.
Oh, his bat kind of picked up this weekend. Why is there an echo? The bat picked up this weekend. He's back close to 300. And the thing with him is he's lumped a really, really hot streak in between two cold streaks, which is, baseball. I think he'll be all right. He was the first one on the field yesterday working on ground balls. He knows that a lot of those mistakes are clearly on him, and he's going to go out there and work on it. So I'm not worried about him. He's doing exactly what we brought him in to do, which is be a stopgap. He's hitting exactly the way he was last year. He's not a high average guy. I mean, he was a 270 hitter. He just had a lot of hits, so he's doing exactly what you asked him to do. And let's not forget, he's a third baseman playing shortstop for us. So, he's not going to be perfect defensively. He's not going to be Correa out there with a glove. He's going to be good when, and unfortunately for him, the mistakes have looked like Glaber-esque from last year. But he's also made a lot of really good routine plays that we didn't get last year at the shortstop position. So I think once it evens out again and hopefully stays on a steady course, he'll be fine. At the time when the team's winning the way it is, you want to find little things to nitpick at, and I guess you can say IKF's defense is one of those little nitpicking things, but it didn't cost us the game. Had it cost us the game this series, then you'd be like, that was a big issue. But I will say this about the catching. The third game would have been over a lot sooner if Higashioka wasn't blocking those Chapman, whatever those pitches were, when he was just throwing them in the dirt. He had like back-to-back blocks that would have moved the runners over and probably scored the game-winning run sooner. So, the catching behind the plate is very important. And Donald mentioned two particular bats that have gotten it going lately, Gallo and Donaldson. They're hitting very well over their last 15. Gallo's hitting 268 with 5 home runs, and Donaldson's hitting 273. So they're starting to get going while Rizzo is struggling, and that's a big thing. Rizzo's gotten cold. 2 bats that were cold are starting to heat up, which is perfect timing. So if someone goes cold, someone heats up. You need that. You know Judge is going to hit. You know LeMahieu. You know Stanton are going to hit. And now we're getting production, and people don't want to mention it, from Gallo. He's been really good lately. Just because he's hitting just over 200, you're like, he sucks. But lately, he's looked a lot better. And Trevino is actually getting some pretty important walks and some timely hits lately. His average sucks, but we know he's not a hitter.
Yeah.
We know he's not a hitter, but he's actually contributing more offensively than Higgy has all year. So overall, the best catcher is Trevino, but to have that combination of 2 really good defensive catchers, that's very important for the pitching staff and defense in general. But yeah, right now everything's just kind of one good nucleus. Like everything seems to be working at the right time, which is something we haven't said for a while. So, and we keep winning games. We keep taking series. That's the big thing. We're not getting embarrassed, which is fine. I mean, the only thing that was embarrassing was Chapman again. So why don't we talk about our $18 million headache?
Let's focus on our headache. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Tylenol with Chapman on the roster.
So what I'm seeing is that he seems like he's constantly searching. Like even the previous inning, which he got out of with the save, relatively unscathed, he couldn't throw his fastball. He wasn't locating his fastball, so all he did was just threw a bunch of sliders, and luckily managed to get the 3 outs required. The previous outing, it was just splitters. And it looks like he's just constantly kind of looking for something that's going to manage to get him 3 outs. He's not locating his pitches. His fastball, which is his key. If he's not locating his fastball, and his secondary stuff isn't very good. I mean, there's a little bit of movement in his slider, but it hangs. And his splitter is actually good, but he doesn't use it that often because he also doesn't locate it very well. But when he does get it working, then it looks really good. But mostly it's all about his fastball. You can basically tell within 2 pitches if Chapman's got it that outing. If he's thrown 2 balls and his fastball isn't at 103 miles an hour right off the gun, then you got to be worried because his fastball is flat as shit. Excuse me. It's like Chad Green fastball. It just sits. If you don't locate it properly, it's very hittable. Unless Chapman's throwing 103 miles an hour, a 97, 98 mile an hour Chapman fastball is extremely hittable. And especially if you don't locate it, because then the batter's going to be like, well, okay, well, he's going to just throw me off speed. And I'm just going to wait till one of them hangs, which inevitably one of them will. Because that is Chapman. He is not a very good pitcher anymore, but it's very concerning at this stage that he's still not being able to locate his pitches. If you want a positive, the fact is that he's only blown 1 game so far, and his ERA is still pretty decent, considering how poor he's looked in about half his outings, and he's kind of gone by the skin of his teeth. For instance, Loizaga has not been as lucky, but Chapman kind of has. It looks like he's been searching for a little while, but he looked particularly bad. I can't rely on him as a closer, but I don't believe Aaron Boone trusts him as a closer. I think that he's gonna when I think on occasion he's going to be having Loizaga close. I think Chad Green will be closing. I think Chad Holmes will be closing. I think Clay Holmes will be closing. I think these guys are going to be closing on rotational basis as well. They're not going to overuse Chapman because I don't believe Boone has as much trust as it looks like. I just think that he's like, well, paying 18 million for this guy. He's, I'm lumbered with this guy for one more year. I might as well try my best to try and eke out 3 outs from him most outings, and he'll try. But yeah, we got a problem on our hands. He's a problem.
No, I think that, especially with the we've seen the impressive outings from Holmes and King, names that we weren't expecting to really hold down the fort at the end of the game. We're so used to seeing Chapman mixed in with Loizaga and Chad Green. But I think it was the third game when he brought in Clay Holmes to keep the game where it was in the ninth, that you almost was like, man, he does not want to give Chapman the ball in this tight of a game. And it was, all right, there's something wrong with Chapman that they're not using him. Because usually if you don't use your you use your closer as often as you can to keep the game where it is, and especially in that type of game. I just didn't. It didn't make sense to me. The only thing that I was thinking is Boone just does not want to use Chapman at all. He has no trust in him. Until he figures it out and gets his mechanics straight, Chapman's not going to get the high leverage positions, the high leverage games, and then you see him last night.
Well, he's getting
a lot. Right, there goes that. Then I'm like, well, there goes that theory out the window.
He has been getting a lot of high leverage, though, man. He's been put in basically every safe situation, unless he's pitched 3 days in a row. It's just he's been searching. Rob?
He used him in the ninth inning of the third game. I mean, Clay Holmes. Yeah, Clay Holmes probably should have pitched that inning, but it is what it is. He walks a small village like all year. He's been walking.
Yeah.
His strikeout to walk ratio is terrible, and he's supposed to be a strikeout pitcher. So he walks everybody. When he can't find the zone, he's brutal to watch. He was doing exactly what he does when he's on that slump where he starts throwing pitches to the backstop. He's missing the zone completely, and the catcher's got to do the YMCA in order to freaking catch it. It's brutal watching him pitch. When he's off, he's one of the worst pitchers in baseball. But when he's on, you're like, yeah, that's the guy you signed. He's weird, but for 18 million, you can't have that seesaw of a closer. He needs to be locked down every single time he goes out there. You got to say, we got a 1-run lead, bring in Chapman, and we're going to protect it. He's not that guy. For 18 million, he's not that guy. And it's unfortunate that we have to talk about our near $20 million closer not being able to protect a tie game. The offense just was able to tie it back up.
I know. Sorry to interrupt, but that was the most frustrating aspect. They just came back.
They came back.
Came from the dead, ninth inning. Huge comeback. And then Chapman just gave it right back.
And once he gave up the first hit, and you're like, yeah. Once you saw that first batter, you're like, he doesn't have it. But you have to have 3 batters, so Boone couldn't take him out. Boone had to follow the rules. You're like, and Boone kind of wanted to, because that's the way he's managed this year. And he just I got to stick with them, because they even mentioned it when Chapman doesn't pitch for a few days, he looks worse when he comes out. So you kind of have to use him.
That's what's scary, man. If they overuse him, he looks awful. If they underuse him, he looks awful. So you're caught in this catch-22. The game was over as soon as Anderson reached first base. As soon as Anderson got on, Chapman just fell apart. He crumbled as a human being on the mound right there. You saw it, because he was more preoccupied by having Anderson at first base than throwing to the batter. Anderson is not an issue if you do your job. If you focus on getting the outs at hand, then Anderson is a non-issue standing at first base. And that's on him. I don't know why he spent the whole time obsessing about Anderson at first base. I mean, unless he was expecting Anderson to steal second, steal third, and come home, then I don't know what he was so worried about. Because anybody worth your salt with that kind of money being paid and that kind of stuff that he has when he's on shouldn't need to obsess over a runner that he's just put on at first base. But that's on him. But his psyche fell apart, and he was so preoccupied with who was at first base that he was walking the entire village. That was what I came out of it. What did you come up with it?
He sucked. That's what I came out of it. His ERA is so deceptive. Like, because he should have an ERA over 5 because he's gotten through a lot of these save opportunities with the skin of his teeth. Like early on this season, he's somehow escaped with a 0 ERA, even though he gave up a lead earlier this year. Like, it's because the unearned runs and earned runs, however that works. Some guys reach on error, whatever it may be. He's not good, and we've known this for years now. Re-signing him for a second time was probably Cashman's biggest mistake because even though Brian Kenny likes to think that Stanton is keeping us from making moves, that idiot, it's really a role with Chapman's contract that is preventing the Yankees from making some moves because you're paying $18 million to a closer. So re-signing him a second time, big mistake. And we have to pretty much live with it. The best case that we can do right now is hope that he gets on some sort of a crazy groove and just sticks with it. And if that's in the 7th inning or what, if he just can be somewhat consistent, even if he's giving up a few walks here and there, but he's getting you out of the innings. If he's doing what he was doing prior to the Chicago game, I guess you live with it because at least you're winning the game. But we've seen it before. This is the start of that domino effect where he has that one really bad outing and the next one's even worse. And then it keeps getting worse and worse. So is this the start of his mid-season, month-long slump in May? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe better now than June or July, but we'll see. Because I can't trust the guy. Every time he comes in, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I reach for a bottle of pills like I'm a freaking addict. And I'm like, here we go. And this is what you get with Aroldis Chapman. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. $18 million should not do that for you. Yeah. You should not have a headache and popping pills because your $18 million closer can't find the freaking strike zone.
Well, it looks like he's been popping pills. He sweats profusely, man. He pisses sweat like he's in an interrogation room. Like he's about to get waterboarded. I mean, why is he so water just pours out of him? He's like,
hey, some people can't. I mean, some people can't help it. I mean, I could sweat in a blizzard. Like, I mean,
unless you sweat like Chapman, then I'm not going to comment. Yeah. But I mean, it's bizarre. He throws a couple pitches and he's like sweating.
One thing that I wanted to point out in between the two is when Donald, when you mentioned how his ERA is deceptive. Let's not forget that bases loaded gen that he created. If it wasn't for Michael King being Michael King, his ERA would be where it should be. With the amount of base runners that he's had on.
Good point.
So Chapman, sometimes that's why when it comes to analytics, sometimes the numbers don't tell you the whole story. Because if you didn't see that inning where Michael King comes in and clears out the bases. Then all you see is a 0 ERA. You think he's the best closer in baseball. Meanwhile, watching the games,
Yeah, but as Rob points out, his walk to strikeout ratio sucks. So that would also be flagged up. Like you don't want to close the walks
thing either. It's not even analytics. Yeah, analytics will tell you that Chapman's not very good. Actually, that's a base ERA is a basic stat. That's like, oh wow, he got a 0 ERA.
Good. So John Sterling of podcasting right there with his.
You're like no. Because you just said two things that kind of like contradicted yourself.
There. Yeah.
You said analytics will tell you one thing, and then you talked about King saving him. No, it wasn't analytics that tell you that. But I get what you're saying though, because that ERA should be bloated if it wasn't for other guys saving him.
That was what I was trying to point out. Yeah.
We help you out.
Yeah, they'll bail you out, everybody that's listening and watching, because listening to me sometimes doesn't do the story justice. I need narrators to kind of break it down.
Narrating for Tats.
The analytics on Bobby Tats will tell you.
But hey, it's only Monday.
Do we have anybody warming up at the bullpen to replace Tats? No,
No, we're gonna let him sweat it out. It's his game.
He's gonna sweat it out.
Bullpen needs rest. I'm sorry, the arm bar.
I sense a hostile takeover coming this week. I feel it.
It's the arm barn now. We can't call it a bullpen, remember?
Oh, that was hilarious.
Oh,
That was a really good point that you brought up about Brian Kenny. What is he talking about? My God, Stanton's one of the best hitters in all of baseball. There's not even a question about it. He leads the Yankees in RBIs. He's the hottest Yankee at the moment. He's tattooing the ball. Oh my God, I give up, man. Like, what does Stan need to do? What does he need to do?
They're looking. He's the typical. Brian Kenny was basically the typical anti-Stanton Twitter guy.
Yeah.
He was like, this guy's hitting really well. What can I do to rag on him? Well, he's not hitting against great pitching. So what did Stanton do the very same night? Crushes a home run in the first inning. It's just like, you know what? Shut up, Brian Kenny. Even his outs yesterday were loud. I'm like, because didn't he nearly have one in the first inning?
Another one, yeah, second inning.
For the second inning, yeah. You're like, this guy's creaming the ball right now. Like everything he's hitting is just like loud, and even his outs, you're like, that should have been 3,000 feet to freaking New York at that point. Like it's just he's killing the ball right now. And Brian Kenny, and then he asked the question like, if the Yankees could redo it again, would they not make that trade?
You absolutely make that trade.
Why wouldn't you make that trade? I keep going back to this. The fact that I've had to waste 5 years defending this guy.
Yeah, I know.
Why wouldn't you trade for the defending National League MVP when all you're giving up are two prospects who have not panned out and Starlin Castro? The
guy who did PEDs, yeah.
And he did a lot more than that. He's not a very good person. If that's the trade, 10 times out of 10, I don't care who is owning the Yankees, you make that trade. George Steinbrenner, if he was still running the team, even in his prime days, would say, you want to give me the NL MVP for what? Okay, take it. You want more? Here.
Yeah, I'll pay for the airfare. You know?
Here's the reality. Had Cashman passed on that, right? And inevitably, it would finally be leaked what the trade proposal was, that the Marlins were willing to accept Starlin Castro, who's not a very good human being, and two non-prospects, and the Marlins willing to eat a third of his salary. If that got leaked, that Brian Cashman passed on that for a hope of an unknown tomorrow, then he would have been eviscerated for it. He would have been eviscerated for it by the exactly same people who are eviscerating for him for making that trade. It makes no sense. How could you turn that down? It's a steal. You're talking about a guy that hit 60 home runs, NL MVP, and he's brought that over, and he's doing it here. Because if you look at it, I mean, I know he's not playing 162 games. If he played even if he played 155 games, his numbers would be right there where it is with the Marlins. He has been hitting it really well for the Yankees, man. He leads the Yankees in RBIs. He's right there in home runs. He's one of the top home run hitters in all of American League right now, along with Aaron Judge. There isn't even a question right now. He hit last year, and he's also our best hitter in the playoffs. He's unbelievable in the playoffs. So there's not an argument to be made that he's not terrific. I mean, the Marlins are eating some of his salary. We're getting a really good hitter. I mean, you never get a great hitter for $26 million. Ever. For what Stanton's providing you, and the fact that Stanton handles New York, he handles New York perfectly. He's had fans that are getting on him for no reason, that were hating on him for no reason, thinking that he's someone that he's actually not. He's much better than anyone they could have hoped for, and they're still ragging on him. Guess what? He just comes up, bang, home run, no problem, right? Playoffs, bang, home run. What do you want from me, right? And he doesn't react to the media. He's not cried. He's not booed. And there's a million sportsmen that can't handle New York all through the three major sports. Like water off a duck's back with him, man. He just gets on, does his job, and he doesn't act like a baby on social media like a lot of these guys do these days. He is perfect representative of what it takes to be a New York Yankee. So I just want these stupid media members to get off their nonsense high horse, which makes no sense. It's a narrative that you're never going to win. And these fans I'm sure there's not that many now, and most of them love him, but any small minority who for some reason don't love the guy, get over it, because he's actually really freaking good.
Yeah. And
drop.
like, you look at 2018, he played hurt and still carried us because Judge missed a lot of time with that wrist injury. And nobody cares about that. He got hurt in 2019, barely played. But even then, when he was in the playoffs, we were a better offense with him. Then 2020, he was the only guy that really hit in the postseason. And then last year, he literally carried us. If he's off the team last year, even as good as Judge was, we don't make the playoffs. So 2 out of the 4 years he's been here, he's carried us in the regular season, and he was our best postseason hitter twice. He was the only guy that showed up in the wild card game along with Rizzo. What more do you want? His playoff statistics with the Yankees are ridiculous, and yet we're talking about, well, he's not really giving you the production when it comes to facing the good pitching. Yes, he is, Brian Kenny, because his playoff numbers are better than anybody else on this damn team. So that's when you're playing the best of the best, is in the postseason. What more do you want from Giancarlo Stanton? He has been given – he's passed every test as far as I'm concerned. If not for 2019, if he played – even 100 games in 2019, his numbers would look a heck of a lot better. It was just that 1 year that everyone's pointing out, like, he's injury prone. Who cares? He's played so well for us when he's out on the field, and he's doing it again right now. And now we got media members. It's not even Yankee fans at this point. Yeah. Now Yankee fans are kind of like, I was a little harsh. I'm starting to come around, and I was harsh. That's my bad. I've seen a lot of like very hard-headed Yankee fans saying that, like, yeah, maybe I was wrong, like my father. And now the media is going after him. Shut up, Brian Kenny. I don't know what he is watching. I'm so happy that Giancarlo Stanton's a Yankee.
But the funny thing is, he's admitted he wasn't watching. He said he didn't do any research. You should never, ever go on the air and get paid to go on the air, discuss baseball, make a hot take without any preparation. Give me the freaking job. Yeah. But no, I mean, it's disgusting that there's people out there that are spreading false narratives and false nonsense, and people buy it. I didn't want him to be trending on Twitter because it's giving that take more freaking Jew than it was actually worth. It didn't deserve any attention, but he's an idiot. So if it takes our podcast, or say John Boy Media was ripping them too, if it taken Yankee podcasts to shred him, then good. Then we're all doing our job, because that is an idiotic take, and he should be ashamed of himself.
No, the thing is, everybody was talking about the whole injury-prone argument. Okay, it goes right out the window, because the more he's playing on the field, the less that he's had any issues with injury, because he's staying loose for the game. He's not just sitting there, on the bench waiting for his spot in the lineup to come in, or if he's not even in the lineup. So the more that and we said this last year, how many times? Once he gets on the field, he'll figure everything will start to click. They started putting him in the outfield, everything started to click. He was hitting a lot better. We saw that especially in the postseason, like we've been pointing out. His postseason numbers are what we expect from the big name Yankee players on that roster. That's what he was brought here to do, and he's doing it. But don't penalize him because everybody else fell short in their postseason performance. Yeah. That's not Stanton's fault. Stanton doesn't bat 9 times in the game, in the lineup. He can only take up one spot. So maybe if everybody else held up their end of the deal, Stanton would have brought us a ring with the way that he was hitting. If he would have kept going in that postseason, who knows what he could have accomplished for us. So I'm tired of this freaking narrative. I think we all are.
Right. And even people want to bring up batting average to kind of like knock him sometimes, which I think is ridiculous at this point, that people are bringing up his average, but he's hitting close to 300 now. So even like the old school, like batting average guys are like, shit, what do I talk about now? Because everything he's doing is he's hitting for a high average. He's getting on base. He's hitting home runs. He's driving in runs. What can you complain about? Because when he's playing the field, he's playing a fine left or right field. Nothing he's doing is like wrong. And yet we're still finding, or some people, Brian Kenny is still trying to find reasons to knock the player. Maybe he's not hitting
Yeah.
top pitching. Shut up. You're going out against a pitcher that the opposing team says he cannot choose who
Yeah,
he's
it's
going
true.
up against.
Good point.
And he still hits good pitching too. Like, I
believe 4 of the 6 hardest hit balls in the majors this year have come from him. And that's just off the top of my head. What is batting? The average batting average nowadays in this new era of modern baseball is not 270, 280. It's about 240. I believe it was. I think more specifically, I think it's about like 235, something like that. Is what an average baseball player should be delivering you batting average wise. He's way above that. He's in the 270s, 280s. There's not an argument to be made. He hits in the postseason, and he hits with power. And he also doesn't just rely on power. He's able to get singles. He's able to drive in runs when required, other than just a home run. There's nothing to complain about. There is nothing to complain about unless you're looking for things to complain about him. And I kind of just feel bad for the guy. He should be celebrated because I love his mentality. That kind of mentality should be celebrated. There's a whole host of athletes, and especially people around baseball, who are like assholes, and they get a lot less attention, negative attention than Giancarlo Stanton, who just does his job and does it well, and he's a good dude. Like, what more do you want?
Yeah, I mean, we could sit here every day like we have been doing, and defending him, rightfully so. But there are the people that continue to hate on him have already made up their minds that they will never like this guy. It doesn't matter what he does. He can hit 1,000. He can hit 1,000 in the postseason. They'll complain about the one ball that he did miss. In the first pitch of an at bat. And that's just how they are determined not to like this guy and to hate on this contract. That compared to what other players are getting paid, he's pretty much in the average.
Very, very good.
He's not the highest paid player.
Nope.
How about the highest paid player that hasn't even been to a postseason yet? Has Trout even been to a postseason? That he's the poster child for baseball? No.
And he's actually more injury prone than Stanton.
Let's be fair to Mike Trout. The Angels have done him no favor.
I'm not knocking Mike Trout. I'm just,
arguably he's more injury prone than Stanton. In fact, I'm pretty sure he is.
I think
I'm not denying his talent, but I mean, there's levels here. There's levels to his apparently injury proneness.
Yeah,
he's not that injury prone. Knock on wood. It's been the Yankees have been handling it much better.
Yeah.
They've looked after Judge and Stanton much better these last couple of years, and it's paying off in the win column. But yeah, I'm glad that we're able to certainly set the record straight regarding Stanton. It's guy's been a monster. He's going to be a monster all year long. Not a doubt about it.
Yep. I hope he leads off the game with a home run today. His first at bat,
my man,
missile. That's it. And I want him to wave to Brian Kenny on his way around the bases with a middle finger in the air. So that's going to wrap things up for us today.
We got on the mound against the Orioles today. We've got the Orioles tonight, right?
Yeah.
Who's on the mound?
Sevy.
Interesting. We'll see what we get from Sevy.
Oh yeah, we'll see how. We'll definitely be breaking down tonight's game tomorrow morning, and I hopefully with the Orioles coming in, these bats will wake up a little bit, and continue to give the pitching staff some good run support. And so, because with the run support, they can pitch more relaxed. That's been that's another factor to discuss later on. But just remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about the Stanton contract in the comments by Brian Kenny. And just remember, wear your pinstripes for pride and play hard.
Thanks so much for the new subscribers as well. Really good. Really appreciate the support. Let's go.
Yes, thank you.